So let me start again by thanking everyone for coming, and those of you who are joining online, we very much appreciate your interest in the Public Library Board. It's the first day of fall for those paying attention because it is getting cold. First, I would like to start off the meeting with our territorial land acknowledgement. Oakville Public Library is situated on the Treaty 14 and Treaty 22 treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas and Credit First Nation, and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. Oakville is currently home to many different First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Regardless of where we come from, we are all interconnected through the land that we live on, water that we use, and the air that we breathe. We are committed to a continuous learning journey and allyship. We seek to elevate Indigenous voices and lived experiences to cultivate reconciliation in Oakville. Okay, that's a very important acknowledgement. We have a few regrets today. We have, Sue, Savannah, Pankaj, and Councillor Knoll are unable to attend, but we do have quorum, so I'm very delighted with that. Before we get into the agenda, there are a couple of other important items. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Now let's move into the agenda. We have, and I apologize in advance, I have various bits of paper in front of me, so I will be able to move things along, but if I'm shuffling paper, you know why. Going to look to the confirmation of the minutes from the previous regular meeting, which was held on July 28, 2022. Any comments on the minutes, or shall we move them as written? Janet, you have a comment, or? You're moving? Okay, great. Do I have a seconder for that? Anybody? Bill, okay, that is moved. Thank you very much. We also have the confidential minutes of the closed session of the board on July 28, 22. So likewise, any comments, or perhaps we just move to see if someone would move it. Anybody? I wasn't there, and I'm chair, so I can't move something I wasn't at. Okay, we have Janet moving. Andrew?
Sorry,
oh.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Sorry.
Typically, I think we move all the minutes collectively.
All right. Well, since I hadn't, yeah, it's a fair point. Okay. So, all right, have we effectively moved all the minutes then, I suppose?
Yep, as long as the original motion from Councillor Hassett-Thiel and Bill included both sets of minutes, we're all set.
Yeah, sorry, apologies, yes. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for that. It's been a while since I've chaired, so I'm a little rusty and I'm wide open to feedback, which is forthcoming, which is awesome. Okay, there are two consent items. The Oakville Public Library Board key agenda items for September, and the health and safety report as well. The first was for information, the second was for information. Is anyone looking to comment on either one of these, or should we move them as a package? Anyone have any comments or would like to separate?
Sorry, have we done a consensus then on the motion for the minutes, or do we need to vote?
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So I'm clearly more than a bit rusty here. All right. So we had a mover and a seconder on the minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, then they are passed. Andrew, you're happy with that? Thank you. Okay. So consent items, there are two. And does anyone wish to separate 4.1 from 4.2? No? Okay, very good. Do I have a motion then to pass them both as is, as we see them, 4.1 and 4.2? Thus, the motion is for consenting to both. Yes, Andrew? Moved. Do I have a seconder? Jan? Okay, perfect. Those are both moved. Thank you very much. There are no confidential consent items. So, we now move into the discussion items. And so I'm just swapping papers here. We have 7 items, including the one we saw earlier today. And I'm in the board's hands, but it's been suggested, and I would agree, that the second, or the electronic monitoring policy that we had, could we perhaps move it into the agenda such that it falls after the accessibility policy, thus 3 policies are discussed in their proper order, but in a row. as opposed to leaving it to the end. Does anyone have any objections to moving thus 6.7 to effectively 6.4A? Any objections to that, moving that?
That's good.
Everyone okay? I don't think we need a motion to change the agenda as such. So let's just go with it. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so we will proceed in that order then. Okay, so awesome. Let's move into the next piece, which is 6.1, and this is a receipt item. You have it in your packages, and it's comprehensive financial report as of June 30. So what do we have?
So as you have in front of you is the comprehensive financial report as of June 30th. So just some key points related to that. In March, we were projecting roughly a $300,000 surplus. The updated number is slightly over $300,000 at $300,015. The majority of that is related to staffing. We have had a lot of staffing movement in the organization this year. I think some of that is a really good thing because it's been a lot of internal movement. So as vacancies occur, staff take that vacancy, which creates a vacancy. It becomes a bit of a cascade we're working through, but it's really great to see staff have the opportunity to try out new positions in the organization. One thing I will flag for you is under the capital variance report, the 16-mile library portable relocation. There was a double booking of a commitment in there. So you can see that the life to date and actuals and commitments had it at close to $2 million. That is incorrect. We're expecting that project to come in around 1.2. So just to give you an updated related to that, because we noticed that variance. So just to bring that to your attention, but happy to answer questions about anything else in the report.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions on the report? Janet, please.
My question is just around, because the vacancies do drive some savings, do you anticipate being fully staffed by the end of the year, or is that a long shot?
There's always some level of movement, but we are hoping to be much more stable by the end of the year. We do have a couple contract positions that are in place that are related to the budget, which will come forward. We're transitioning from some part-time into some full-time to their contract. So once that gets established, then there'll be some movement related to that into permanent positions versus contract. But I am hoping that pending Simona's position, which will possibly be outstanding into the new year, that we will be much more well situated.
Okay, thanks very much. I'd be prepared to move the financial.
Awesome. That's great. Any other questions before we do that? Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay, please, Bill.
We do, okay. I was just interested in the, what was driving the collections management increase?
The collections increase, that is, I think we've talked about this, I think I might have mentioned it in July. In the new year, we're going to bring a detailed report to the board about the state of the collections at OPL.
Okay.
We have been struggling the last number of years due to inflation, just costs of electronic databases, which are all going up, ebooks that are all going up.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing is as we see surpluses, we are moving some of the surplus money into collections to try and keep us above water. So that's really where that above what we've budgeted, that's what that increase is.
Okay, so I guess it wasn't a big shock that it went up that much. It just,
No, because we've done it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you for that. Unless anyone has anything else, Janet, you're prepared to move it? Do I have a seconder, please, for this? It's a receipt item. Bill, okay, thank you. Any objections? So moved. That point is, that item is moved. Thank you very much. 6.1 has been moved. Moving to 6.2, this is an information item. Inclusion and diversity survey results. Again, in your package, pages 22 to 30, so please.
So as the board is well aware, the OPL participated in the diversity and inclusion survey that the town did in partnership with CCDI. And what you have before you is the results of the OPL's portion of that survey. We were sectioned off from the town, although we do provide some town information in here. What's really great is that we had a pretty strong turnout from staff, so the information that we have is very robust, and I think will really be able to help us plan our diversity and inclusion strategy moving forward. As I indicate, and as we'll talk about as part of my CEO goals, I am bringing a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic framework for the board to review in November, taking the results of this survey as well as the key themes into effect. But I wanted to bring it to you for your information. Just one thing I will point out under management, non-management demographics, so the second graph under racialized persons, it says a 0. That shouldn't be a 0, it should be an N. We do have identified individuals in there, it's just a low number. So I thought we had updated that, so just wanted to flag that for you. But happy to take questions. As you can see, we've broken it out by the OPL workforce, the town of Oakville workforce, as well as the Oakville population. We do quite well. The library, no surprising, is a female-dominated industry, so we do well across women. I feel that we're doing pretty good with persons with disability and LGBTQ. Definitely have to improve with racialized persons, and we do have some initiatives in place to improve our recruitment in that area. Management as well, you can see that management is definitely an issue that we've been having conversations about. And then the key insights, the key themes relate mostly to ageism, accessibility, equity and inclusion, accountability, and psychological safety. And we have been doing things to address some of those in the interim, which we'll talk about more in November. We're happy to talk about them tonight. As a way to mitigate while we put a strategy in place, because we don't want to not do anything while the strategy is in place, which is actually one of the key themes. So, but happy to answer any questions related to it.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any questions? I have a few, but do people have questions before I? Anyone? No, please, yes. Jen.
So first of all, congratulations on getting such a high response rate. It says something that people trust, that they can tell you how they're feeling and share some candid feedback.
I don't have a lot of questions because I'm going to trust that in November we're going to see an action plan. I'm glad that you referenced that you're doing some things in the interim around the microaggressions and a feeling of safety. I think we're experiencing across all of the country where individuals are feeling a little bit more intimidated and tempers are flying. So look forward to that strategy. My question, and perhaps you could bring it some information in November, is what is the overall efforts being done to around racialized individuals in terms of trying to get them into library science programs? So that doesn't rest with us, but if you do have some information that would feed into supporting our ability to have a talent pool that we could draw from, that would be great to hear, and it would certainly make it easier for others. But those are my comments, and I look forward to your report.
Yeah, and I can address that briefly. I will follow up. Because we do see a stronger representation for racialized persons within our positions that do not require a library degree. And so that's one thing that the Canadian Urban Library Council has recognized, and it is working to, I wouldn't say petition, but work with the different universities to understand why racialized people are not necessarily, is it that racialized people aren't taking the degree, or if they are, where are they going? To get a better understanding of that. And I do know that that was a question that was going out to the universities. It can be a little bit of a challenge to get that information out of them, but I will follow up and see where they are and get back to you as part of the report in November.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Andrew, please.
I'll echo James' remarks on congratulations on the high response rate and good effort here. I wonder if there's comparison to some benchmarks from the survey, the company that initiated the survey. You know, for example, if we look at the results, the inclusion climate, that's on page 4 of 9. The last item, in this organization, my unique value is known and appreciated, had an agree rate of 50.98%. arguably in the library system where we have many jobs that are identical or very similar and their shift work and so on, we wouldn't necessarily expect that to be an extraordinarily high number, but how do we benchmark against, ultimately measuring success against similar employers?
Yeah, we can definitely reach back out to CCDI and see if they have benchmarks and see what other industries and what other libraries may have worked with them in the past that we might be able to benchmark against, but it would depend on who's used CCDI versus DiversaPro versus a number of other organizations that do this work, but it's definitely a question I can ask for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's it, thank you.
Great, thank you. I had a couple of questions, and again, excellent research, thank you. I apologize if I've missed this, but the survey response rate is very, very high, 71, but from a stats perspective, small n, what was the total number of responses?
Sorry, what? I don't understand, sorry.
Well, you said the response rate was 71.
Yep.
But what was the universe? How many people in quantum was that?
So 71%.
Just curious.
We have 130 staff, 135
Okay.
staff, so 71% of 135.
I'm the arts guy, not the math guy, but I was just kind of getting a sense of,
Yeah, 80-something, I think.
of what it was, because I saw the capital N, but the smaller n is something I've seen before, so.
Yeah.
The consistent language, and I know we've talked about this before, and I know it can be challenging, but there are two different acronyms in here.
Oh, I thought.
And just as an example, as I'm sure you're aware, the Prime Minister has now made Government of Canada-wide policy on what acronym they're using. It's not to say that the town is going to be using the same one, but there's just some variances on page 23 and 24. There's one use, and then on 26, there's a different.
Oh, that's my apologies. I thought I caught them all, because I had originally put everything as just DE, but then the town's going with
Yeah.
DEI, so I wanted to match what the town had, so I apologize, yeah.
So what is the library going with?
So we will match the town, which is DEI, so diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about the LGBTQ acronym.
Oh, the LGBTQ
Because there, sorry,
acronym.
I apologize, I realized I wasn't as clear as I could have been. There are two different ways of describing that community in this report. The second bullet near the bottom of 26, 2S LGBTQIA+, and prior to that, you have in the chart on 23.
Okay.
So it's a smaller point, but it's an important
Yeah.
point for that community. I happen to do a lot of work with people in that community, and it's very, very important.
No, absolutely, and what's in the actual report is what the town of Oakville uses, which we were adopting. After the inclusion initiatives, that was taken from a staff document, and so I will speak with staff about what.
Yeah, okay, no, fair enough, it's just a
Yeah.
point out. And a small, pardon me for being an editor here, but the bottom of 23 where it says, however, OPL is significant below, that should be an adverb.
Yeah.
And penultimate para on 24, strong representation continues to be strong. That's me just picking, but in the spirit of robust reports, which you always do.
Yep.
I thought I'd point that out. Anyway, okay, that's it for me. Does anyone have any other further questions before we look for a motion on this? And this is to be received for information. Oh, please.
Yeah, I just found it interesting when I'm going through the results that when 81.37% of the people say I'm treated fairly and with respect, and then you get down to the other one about unique value. My unique value is known and appreciated is only 50.98%. I just thought that was kind of interesting that one was so high, and they kind of tie in together. And I don't know if that's something that's sort of a typical thing in these kinds of surveys, but because that thing seemed very low to me. But then, they feel like they're very well treated fairly and with respect. So it's just kind of.
No, for sure, and that's one thing that we noted as well, and one of the things that will come forward as part of the strategic framework is actually putting together staff teams, because again, this is just a survey, and so people answer, and so it's great because it kind of gives you an overview, but it doesn't really give you information,
Right.
and how people are viewing this question versus that question, and can we have that conversation? So one of the things we're looking to do is actually to form either one staff team or multiple staff teams to be able to actually dig into some of these questions and get more information, and then have staff-led initiatives that they've brought forward in order to kind of improve these, because This isn't necessarily things that can be improved, well, none of it can be improved without feedback from staff and direction from staff on how to do that. So that's part of the framework,
Yeah.
sneak peek of what's coming in November, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Okay.
that's very important work. Yeah, Janet?
I'd just like to add an additional comment. I think that people will have interpreted that question in so many different ways. You know, so I think it is one you appropriately said, we need to ask people, you know, what could, when you looked at this, what was your takeaway from it? What is it you would, how would you score it higher? What would we do better or differently in order for you to see that this phrase, unique value, is known? Good for you for thinking through that, you know, you do need these round tables and allow people to comment. And I think it is a bit of a shock that one's so high and one's so different. But I also think it's how it's worded.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. So with that being said, do I have a motion? This is a for information agenda item. Can I get someone to please move this?
Sure.
Anyone? Bill, do I have a seconder? Janet? Any objections? That is moved. Thank you very much. Okay, excuse me. We're now moving into the first of our three policy items. This particular one, 6.3, is library space booking policy. And this is an agenda item seeking feedback. It's page 31 to 33. It seemed pretty straightforward to me, but are there any comments, please?
Just that this is the first time that the board is seeing the updated version. It's simply that now that the library has more space versus rooms that we're allowing people to access, we just felt it was better to update the policy to include that and just provide clarity for both the staff and the public. So again, happy to take questions.
Are there any, please, Janet?
I appreciate that we're going to be able, when the space isn't being used or isn't booked, and somebody says, well, could we use that room? I'm a bit concerned, and I'm not sure what the solution is, but that it may be free of charge. I don't know if you need to put some additional that, is there any language that could go in there? I'll look to Stephen. Is there any language that could go in there that would be, people wouldn't start to make an assumption that well, I got it free last time, so will I get it free the next time?
Right.
Or certain groups are getting it free, but, you know, I'm not getting it. Our group is not getting it for free. So I do think there needs to be a little bit more clarity on that.
Okay. Yeah, we can look at that. There is some nuance to it, but I think we can provide some clarity simply because there's some organizations, take the Positive Space Network, where they needed a space, and so we exchanged space for training. So they didn't pay for the space, but they provided us with training, so it was kind of a great partnership. So there's examples like that, but then if they just needed the space and we couldn't do that, we would have charged them for it. So, and those comes through conversations, but we can kind of highlight something in here that there's a process that people need to go through to understand that. We do have some spaces that are always free. And then, for example, the Creation Zone at Iroquois Ridge, when the door is open, people are welcome to go in. When it's closed, it's either because we're running a program or it's been booked. The smaller rooms at Glen Abbey, we do not charge for. Basically the two-person kind of really small like office spaces for that. That's a first come, first serve, although we do put time limits on it so that somebody can't go in there and sit in there for 6 hours.
But the reason I also raised it is that from a town perspective, we do get requests for meeting rooms. And you know, we do have some people who say, well, they should be free, you know, I pay my taxes. But unfortunately, it does cost money to run these facilities, right? Keep the lights on, et cetera. So trying to have some structure around what maybe free means is my only feedback on this. And otherwise, I think it's great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Likewise, I have one comment. Does anyone else before I just add? And again, I apologize if I had missed this, but the state of the world being what it is, we provide security, especially if there might be deemed, I know this policy contemplates security and there's, I think, fairly clear criteria for denial of use, but is there physical security at any of these offices or what would happen in the event something like, if someone rents a room and things get a little, squirrely, do we have physical security who can show up, or what do we do?
So we don't have security on site. If we identify that it may be an issue in advance, we would absolutely have a conversation about security, hopefully with them. That way they would pay for the security.
Well, that was my question, who pays for
Related
it?
to that, if it happens in advance. If during an event something happened, at that point, we'd likely call the police.
Yeah, because as you very clearly point out, staff are allowed to go in at any time, which I think is absolutely
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
So
but I do
they-
know, depending on the topic, we do ask a lot
Yeah.
of questions, and we ask more questions now than we used to, because we've had so many libraries have some incidents related
Exactly.
to topic and conversations, and about whether or not we would even rent a room to certain groups and individuals,
Yeah,
depending
for sure.
on their topic. So we do try and gather as much information in advance, that way we can be properly prepared.
And the staff on site feel fully empowered to call the police? Like
Oh,
they
yes.
know, okay, that's awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, that's it for me. Anyone else? Do we have any further questions? Okay, may I have a motion, please? This is again for feedback. Can I have a motion, please, on agenda item 6.3? Anyone move that? Andrew, thank you very much. Anyone second it? Bill? Any objections? That is passed. Thank you very much. Moving now swiftly to 6.4, which is accessibility policy. This is for approval.
So the accessibility policy has been before you in July. There was no comments from the board at that time, except that we take it to the Town of Oakville's Accessibility Advisory Committee. So we did that on September 8th. They had no comments or changes. So we are bringing the policy back to the board for approval.
Colleagues have any questions? Janet? Yeah, please. Yeah. Oh, they were going right to the movement. All right, awesome. So, yeah, all right, well, as am I. Thank you very much. This is excellent. So, Janet, you're moving this motion. May I have a seconder, please? Meredith, thank you very much. Okay, so any objections? No, that is passed. Thank you very much. That's 6.4. This is where we do that little swerve over to what is called 6.7, but we're effectively calling it 6.4B, if you will. The electronic monitoring policy. It was circulated earlier today. Hope you've had a chance to review it. And likewise, as we've just done, this one is for approval. So I open it. Tara, do you have any comments on this one?
Just apologies for the lateness of getting this to you. It is for approval. Normally, we bring it for feedback and then approval, but there is some legislative timelines related to this, and it is essentially the town's procedure that we've adapted into a policy as per the legislation. As you are all aware, OPL is fully governed by the Town of Oakville ITS, so it isn't fully under our control, but the legislation requires that the organization has a policy in place. So we've essentially taken the town procedure and made it into a policy for OPL that we brought forward to you for approval.
So just for clarity, we're being asked to approve as is, yes?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? As I munch on my cantaloupe, I apologize. Any questions, comments? I should really not eat cantaloupe when the CEO was speaking. I apologize. Okay, do I have someone to move then this agenda item? Bill? Yep. Do I have a seconder? Hello, Jen? Okay. Any objections? That is moved. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving with celerity. Okay. If I'm reading this correctly, I believe we're back to 6.5. We're back to the agenda, thus 6.5, which is for information and is the CEO goals Q3 update, please.
So as the board remembers, the board sets goals for the CEO of the full organization at the beginning of every year, and I provide updates as we go through. So this is my Q3 update. I'm excited to say that quite a bit on the CEO goals has been completed. I will highlight the ones that are not. So there is the, to develop and implement a diversity and inclusion strategy. So that is in progress. That will come to the board in November, as well as a talent management strategy that is currently being worked on will come in November. So those are the two outstanding items, and they will come in November.
Awesome. No, this is very, very clear indeed. Any questions?
No. just make a comment.
Please.
The only comment I have is, when I was working in the bank, I could only hope that I would hit as many goals as you have this quick into your year. So, good for you.
Thank you. It's good because, well, it's good.
Any other questions, comments? Personal insights from
Yeah.
previous careers?
Write them down.
I look forward to your book. Yeah. Okay, so may we have a motion then this is for information. Item 6.5, do we have a motion to pass this? Janet, please, do I have a seconder? Andrew, thank you. Any objections? That also is passed. Thank you very much. We are moving now, which is the penultimate agenda item. The CEO update 6.0, pages 70 to 76 in your book. And as many others have been tonight, this is for information. So please go ahead.
Okay. So just some updates. So the 16-mile relocation is underway. This has definitely been a bit of a moving target. We are hopeful to open on Monday. However, we are still waiting approval of the final inspection, which as soon as it happens, it didn't happen today. No. So we're hoping that it will happen tomorrow, but we'll provide you an update as soon as we can, because everything is ready to go. We're just waiting for the sign off for occupancy. So as soon as we have that, we will keep everybody posted. As part of the relocation, we were going to improve the lighting in the branch. It was deemed as substandard as part of the initial build. However, there have been some delays, but we will get installed, just not necessarily with this opening. And there is an issue with the connection joints that need to be addressed. It's not structural, it's just more, it's almost like, the way Simona explained it to me is where they reconnected the 9 joints between the 9 portables. It's like an elevator bump. So when you have booked trucks, it's not ideal and it can be a bit loud. So we've asked them to look at solutions for that. So that is still outstanding.
Yeah, good point. Thanks.
North Park. So North Park is well underway. The architect is currently working on drawings based on the detailed design, and that'll take place over the next little bit. The tender is expected to be issued in November and awarded in early 2023. So we'll keep the board updated as to the plans. I imagine most of the information will come once the contractor has been awarded and we actually get a shovel in the ground. So the Glen Abbey Art Project, so on September 7th, the three artists that were selected for the second round presented their vision for the Glen Abbey Art Project to the jury. It was a challenging deliberation. All 3 had some really great things to bring forward, but the jury did select a finalist who had verbally accepted the project. I did check in with Tanya DeRizio at the town, and she did say that the finalist did email her acceptance, so I can announce that it is Carolyn McFarlane. She's a local Toronto artist, and what I think what appealed to the jury most about her is that her piece is very has a high level of community engagement, in that the public will come in, they will create, and that creation will go on the walls. And so that, I think, was one of the major draws to her, more so than some of the others whose public consultation or community engagement wasn't to that level. It was more like, we'll hold a workshop and we'll ask them about things, versus actually people coming in and creating, and then that being included in the art that actually goes up on the wall and outside. So we're really excited about that. You will see, once we actually get her sign the contract and we make the official press release, the board will be notified. Work is expected to begin later in the year, and the official launch is planned for Culture Days 2023, so this time next year. So there'll be a number of workshops in early 2023. The board will be invited to participate, as well as members of the Oakville community. I'm really excited. Bill was on the committee, the jury, so. You were happy with the choice? Yeah?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a interesting process. I've never been on a jury before, but you know, there was a couple of local artists on the jury, as well as the curator for Oakville Galleries. And I just thought, you know, all of the sort of the discussions, the banter, you know, the sort of back and forths, and you know, I just think that, you know, at the end of the day, it was kind of surprising who we ended up picking, because, you know, who you thought maybe would have been the one picked after the discussions, it turned out to be somebody else. So I think everybody was really happy with who we picked, and I'm glad that she accepted that. And I think it's going to be great for the library there, and I'm looking forward to it. But hopefully we can do that again somewhere down the line, because it was really a great process.
We really wanted to pick more than one, but they wouldn't let me. So.
Yeah.
But we have ideas for North Park and some of the other spaces for
Yeah.
sure. I think there's some
And
exciting
some of
opportunities.
the good thing is, some of the artists that came in second and third kind of thing, they very much could be, you know, brought into another library for the exact same reasons, because it's just, for this particular one, she seemed to be the one, but it was close. So, but it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for the project to go forward. So as was in the report, Ontario Public Library Week is coming up October 16th to 22nd. We do have customer treats and branch activities throughout the week, and we are bookending the week with two special events. So on October 16th, Central Branch is hosting Craig Douglas, the Comic Juggler, and then GA is planning a closing event for Saturday, October 22nd. Their performer is still in flux, but once we get that confirmed, we will put that out all through social. But we always love Public Library Week. Just a heads up, Indigenous movie night. So it is September, and next week leads up to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And one of the events that the library is participating in Oakville is Oakville's Outdoor Indigenous Movie Night. So just bringing that to your attention, it is tomorrow down at the Oakville Museum. And then just the next two are just highlights through social. So this came across Oakville Anything and Everything. Just an amazing shout out about our creation zone. There were a number of comments underneath it. I didn't post it. I did reply to a bunch of them because they were like, what branch is this? And how can we get a hold of some of this equipment? So it was exciting to tell them that this was Glen Abbey, but we are also looking at expanding things like the circuit maker into other branches as well, because it is low tech pieces of that. But it's always fun when you see the word of mouth spread. And then last September 10th was World Suicide Prevention Day. Dr. McGanny posted on LinkedIn a post. This is just the front section of it, just recognizing World Suicide Prevention Day and the Glen Abbey Rock Garden out at the outdoor space at Glen Abbey. So if you hadn't had a chance to read her post about suicide prevention, it is an important one. And there's a picture of her out in our rock garden out at Glen Abbey. And that is everything, except I would like to take the opportunity to thank Simona Dignoux for all the work that she has done for Oakville Public Library over the past 5 years, and to wish her all the best in her new role at Hamilton Public Library.
Well, likewise, can I just comment on behalf of the board, Simona, I personally benefited a lot from your insight. You bring so much to the table. It's our loss, their gain. So thank you very much. I think my colleagues would, of course, anyone can say that as well. Thank you very much for being so great with the library, and all the best in your next chapter, which I suspect is closer to home as well for you. So that's yeah.
Just a little. So.
Yeah. You don't have to cross the bridge, I suspect. So that's good.
Is it a walk here? No, it's not. Oh, okay.
Walk to work day. Thank you. Okay, so Tara, back to your update. Colleagues, any questions, comments? Please, Jen.
So in my never-ending hope of content for newsletters for counselors to share all the good news. So I was thrilled that you actually put that note up about Oakville, anything and everything. But there's a bigger audience out there. And there is a newsletter content box on that council portal.
Right, yes.
But the newsletter, that library content is not loaded
Okay,
onto it. And while there's always some debate about what goes out during election time, set aside the election, we are, and your team deserve as much, sharing of the content of what's going to happen, what people can look forward to in their local branch, let alone, across the town. So I request again, if somebody could load it. It really is well received. Like, we have probably one of the larger lists of individuals, and people say, I didn't know, and no different than what you saw on Facebook. Right. So we want to help spread the word, and if you could help us do that, that'd be great.
yep, no, absolutely. Joe and I will have a conversation.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? I have none. Okay, so may I have a motion? This is for information. May I have a motion? Bill, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Anybody? Janet, thank you very much. Objections to the update? No? Seeing none, that is passed. Thank you very much. So I just want to clarify myself, just technically, I said this was the penultimate item. It, in fact, is strictly the last discussion item, because we do have an item under new business, so I apologize, that was my misspeak.
I'm glad you cleared that up.
Well, yeah, I know you've been waiting to correct me, Bill. So that is the end of the discussion items. We have no confidential discussion items, which I believe then we would move to new business, yes? Yeah, okay, thank you. So new business has one item, which was circulated to the board with respect to Susan Finelli, and it is a request for a leave of absence. The wording is right there. I won't read it out necessarily. It's just fairly straightforward. Does anyone have any comments on said request? Yes, please, Andrew.
A question. So it sounds like the intention is for Susan to return to the board after the leave of absence, if approved?
That's my understanding. I was in consultation with staff earlier. I don't have all the information myself, but my understanding
I
is...
don't know the circumstances, so...
Yeah, I'm not entirely clear, and apologize because I may have missed a meeting, but I believe the suggestion of 3 meetings would cover the period of her expected absence. And thus, after 3 meetings, and this being the first one, I believe, right? Yeah, so 2 more, and then it's expected that she absolutely returns. At least, I believe that's our expectation on this day, at least.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I believe she's hoping to return once her contract with the town is.
Yeah, she would need to, because it's an election year, so there is a new board coming into place, so we'll be sending out at the end of October requests for the board to reapply to members of the board, and then, but until a new board is assigned by council, this one would continue. So Susan would come back in January if the new board has not been.
Providing her work with the town is done.
Yes.
Yeah. And I will just mention while we're discussing reapplying that the applications will go out, well, the posting will go out on oakville.ca towards the end of October, probably that last week of the 27th, and it will likely be live till the middle of November, but we'll give you more information on that and how to resubmit applications if you're interested in coming back.
Great, thank you. Andrew, does that satisfy your question?
That answers
I
part
had
of
the
it,
same
yes.
one, so.
Yeah,
I have another.
Oh,
No, yeah, please,
So
go ahead.
Not having the policies in front of me, and regrettably as the former chair of the policy review committee, but is our policy that up to 3 meetings missed is acceptable and anything beyond that needs to be excused? Or is it up to 2 and then the 3rd needs also to be excused?
If I remember correctly, it's after 3 that they are removed from the board. So she has to be granted an exception for 3.
Okay, so we may not be required to do it, but it's probably better to do it anyway.
It's just cleaner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So theoretically, not this case, theoretically, the 4th would trigger someone's departure, 4th in a row.
Yes, we would have to come back to the board if
Theoretically,
she
yeah.
misses
So
it.
in this case, Andrew, I think it's a good point. That this is being proactive in light of information we know, with the expectation that she returns. And so I think this is just
My
prudent.
understanding, it's also based on her current contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
she's not in position to be on the board, right? It's not like she's just
Yeah, her
deciding
current
not to be
contract
involved. Yeah.
expires, so
Yeah.
if that changes, then she won't be eligible to be on the board, but if it does end and she chooses to come back, then she'll be able to come back.
And because we're aware of the upcoming absences, we brought it to you as a board, as opposed to her just missing meeting after meeting. It's a planned absence.
Yeah. No, from my standpoint, I definitely appreciate the upfront notice, and I'm prepared to support it.
Thank you. Bill, I believe.
No, I was just going to say, I was talking to her at the jury, and she had mentioned this, and that she fully intends on coming back. It's just that she's covering for somebody at the town, and that's why she has to, I guess, step away for a few months. But yeah, she's definitely coming back.
Which is great. She's a very valued member, so yes, please.
I'd be pleased to move it. We have, she adds tremendous value.
Yeah, without question, and I agree wholeheartedly. It's good to know. We're being upfront with it, and very much looking forward to having Susan back. So, okay, so we have a motion to, hold on, let me just make sure. So the motion is to accept the request for leave of absence, is that right? Yeah, okay. So we are formally accepting the request for leave of absence as moved by Janet. Thank you. So do we have a seconder for said? Andrew, thank you. Any objections to this? No, seeing none, that is passed. Thank you. That, ladies and gentlemen, unless there is other new business that people would like to bring up, this is the time to do so. No, thank you. All right, well. Oh, yes, please.
At the next board meeting, will you give us some
Insights in your report on the Downtown Cultural Hub and the Central Library, what the process will be, or what your thoughts are around the plan? Because the Downtown Cultural Hub was approved as a dispersed model at council the other night. So people will start to say, so what does that look like? What do you envision? If November is too soon to have that, at some point it would be good for the board to understand where are we on this journey, and where do you see us going?
No, I can absolutely provide an update.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry for the last minute.
No, that's what that item is there for, is the catch-all. So barring anything else, I just want to say for the public record, the next date and time of our meeting is Thursday, October 27th. We typically meet the third Friday of every month, but of course with the municipal election on the 24th. The meeting will be Thursday, October 27th here in the council chamber at 7 p.m. And with that, I call this meeting to a close. Thank you very much.
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I hit too early. May I have a motion to formally end the meeting? Yes, to adjourn. Bill, do I have a seconder?
I want to stay here. I'm not going to second that.
Well, you can stay here all you want, I suppose, by yourself, because, anyway, no.
You got the gavel.
Do I have a seconder to adjourn said meeting? Yes, Meredith, thank you very much. Sorry, Andrew. But this is your time to object if you wish. No objections? Seeing none, that is done. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now